Good afternoon and most welcome to this webinar on role of technology in sales and redistribution of goods and services in rural India. Uh, we will structure the today's webinar into three parts. First, I will welcome the co-panelists, give a brief about the kind of career that they have had. Then we will talk a little bit about rural India and what are the changes which has taken place in the last decade. In fact, this particular webinar series is about the changes that has taken place in last 10 years. So we will also talk about mostly what changes have taken place in terms of technology, its evolution in rural India, the consumer behavior, as well as the change in the go-to-market strategy of different companies. We will also give a small brief about the kind of changes that has taken place in rural India in the last 10 years at a macro level. After that, we will follow up with three questions. And these questions were one about the role of technology that which has been in the last 10 years in rural India and how it has evolved the sales and marketing practices, sales, marketing, distribution practices of various companies. We will also like to know that whether, as regard to fintech is concerned, whether that has also helped the companies in terms of payment systems. Second, we will discuss a little bit about the go-to-market strategies and the change in the rural channel, their behavior, and most importantly, all this is for the consumer. So we will also ask the esteemed panelists about some of the key points which has changed the consumer behavior in rural, which has led to this kind of a evolution of rural market, right? So before this, I will give a small brief about the before introducing the esteemed panelists and handing over the questions to them for respond. I will give a small brief about rural India as such. We all of us know, and this has been often repeated, so there is no point for me to go and answer this question, why rural market. All of us know that it is about 66% of our population which resides in about the 90% of the land mass of the country is rural India. Indian workforce, 84% comes from rural India. The non-farm income beyond agriculture is on the increase in rural India. And there was a study which said that if the non-farm income increases, the consumption of branded products and services increases. One of the studies Nielsen had in 2019 said that 2/3 of the rural super consumers are looking for products and services which improves their lives or makes it easier. Uh, then there is also the rural workforce which goes to urban India and sends back money home, which is almost a whopping 2.5 to 3 lakh crore per annum. The fourth largest segment of Indian economy is FMCG, and today's discussions, most of the discussions will be in and around FMCG because that is considered to be the mother of all categories, because that shows the affluence. The consumption of FMCG shows the affluence of the consumer in a rural in a market. We expect that the rural FMCG market to be almost 15 lakh crore by 2025, which is 45% of the total Indian FMCG market. So, gentlemen, you can know that what is the size and the potential of the rural in India. There are three basic changes, I think, which has taken place, which is worth talking about as far as the rural India is concerned in last 10 years. And of course, there have been many changes, but I consider three to be most important. Number one, the rural digital telephony or the mobility services. India has one of the cheapest mobile services available in the world, and the rural India, we have almost 50% of the 75 crore smartphones which are there in the country. And the Prime Minister of our country once had said that he dreams of the day when every Indian would have a mobile phone in his hand and every land can be covered by a drone. Uh, so the JAM, the Jandhan, the Aadhaar, and the mobile connection has done wonders as far as rural India is concerned. Almost 25 lakh crore, gentlemen, has been transferred directly, benefiting the rural consumers. These are such changes which has taken place, and there can be many more which is connected to digital telephony. So I would not go into details. Rather, we'll see that how this has evolved the rural sales and marketing domain. Number two is the amount of changes which has taken place in rural infrastructure, whether it be the Gramin Sadak Yojana or the rural roads or rural electrification. It is mind-boggling to compare this 20 years back what it was. Only a few weeks back, I had gone to a very deep market in Uttar Pradesh, and I was so happy that not only the houses were electrified, which is okay, but there were street lights, and street lights in a small village, and along with CCTV cameras, which I think we were frozen in time, saying that कि गांव में जाओगे तो रास्ते में अंधेरा होगा. लेकिन but those things have changed for good. So one is the rural infrastructure, the way it has changed, and many more aspects of infrastructure apart from only uh, roads or electrification. The third was the amount of money the government is spending in that, whether it is a Garib Kisan Yojana or Narega, or it is uh, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. You will find the huge amount of money is being spent by government in the rural area, and that money circulates in the rural economy. And this is whether it is a state government, irrespective of the parties that they come from, or the central government. Whether this is a vote bank, that is why they spend or not, that's a question for a debate some other time. But it is a truth, and this money is increasing year after year. So this is the fact behind the rural market today. So having said this, we now go over to our esteemed panelists. Let me introduce them. We have three panelists today with us. Mr. Manoranjan Pani. Manoranjan is a BTech from NDRI Karnal, and a pass out from Institute of Rural Management in MBA in 1991. He has almost 30 years of experience in sales, distribution, and in marketing. His experience in Amul spans from business development, strategy, sales and marketing management to general management. He has worked in expansion of Amul's product portfolio to make this organization. It's a 61,000 crore organization today, the eighth largest dairy company in the world. And it will be very interesting to know from Pani, when milk is produced in the rural areas, what is it that Amul has done so well, so that their value-added products are also selling in rural, which a dairy-based value-added products are selling in rural. So that will be very interesting to know. And how is that their GTM to rural one, they collect the milk. Obviously, the products does not flow by the same channel. The sales and distribution is a completely different game. So what has GCMMF done as far as sales and distribution in rural is concerned, and how it has added to their top line and bottom line? The second gentleman, an esteemed 18-year-old experienced marketeer, a very seasoned professional, Mr. Nikhil Kaul. Nikhil is the COO of Last Mile Channel Enhancement. He has been a marketeer all through his career in BTL activations, brand planning, budgeting, brand strategy. But it is very interesting to note that for last 2 years, he heads this organization which tries to differentiate itself in terms of selling and distributing and marketing product in rural areas, specifically in rural area, using technology. So Nikhil, we will really look forward to some inputs from you, whether it be a rural consumer or rural activations or whatever you are doing in the rural area. How is it different than urban, and what is it that you are doing in the rural landscape? Then comes Shabbir Haider, a young professional of 10 years experience. Shabbir comes from IRMA. He is a IRMA graduate, and he has experience from four companies: Amul, Wipro, PepsiCo, and now he is the rural head of Mondelēz. He is very passionate of keeping track of changing face of the rural business ecosystem, with a keen interest that the role the technology is playing. So, Sabir, you have seen four organizations with four different categories, of products and services. Now, each of these company has its own unique G2M go-to-market strategy. So, we would like to know from you how they are different from each other, and what are the new things that you are seeing in the technology landscape as far as sales and distribution is concerned. So with this, we will start our sessions. So first of all, I would like to warm up a little bit in talking about the rural consumer, the rural consumer. So the first question I will ask to Nikhil. Nikhil, you handle about 20 companies, if I am not mistaken, and they come from different categories. So how in 2 or 3 key points can you tell me that in last 10 years, what are the changes you have seen in the rural consumer? You are not audible.
I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, yes, you are audible.
Great. So I was just firstly thanking you and RMAI for having me here and being part of such an esteemed panel. And you've been kind in your words about me. So I'll try and keep it crisp. So I've been doing this LMCE for last 10 years. I've been trying to help brands get into rural and drive availability, drive sales in rural, and it's one tough nut to crack, right? But to answer your question as briefly as I can, I think the rural consumer, like you said, 2/3 of the rural consumer are looking for products that either improve their life or lifestyle. And from what I understand, the rural consumer today is mimicking the urban consumer. They need a great product. They need a quality product. They need a great lifestyle. So gone are the days we used to talk rural is tomorrow, rural is next, rural is today. I personally believe the rural consumer has already arrived. It is we who are trying to catch up, right? And I define the space currently, probably for my lack of 20 years of experience, but limited to 10 years, that the way I see the consumer today and the market and ecosystem today is divided pre-COVID, COVID, and post-COVID. That's how I see it, right? And I think the market was already there, but COVID is what made us realize the potential, the capability, the aspirations, and the kind of smartness towards technology a consumer slash retailer slash distributor has on ground. Right? So consumer was always ready. He's always aspirational. We call them the rural-urban consumers who are always mimicking the urban style lifestyle. They have the appetite. You have given the reasons enough and more education infrastructure. We have the best literacy from independence today in rural, right? So that showcases a lot many things. I believe in simple sense that the rural consumer has already arrived. He has an appetite. He is ready to consume. He has the liquidity to consume. He's smarter, right? The only difference probably would be that his judgment of buying a product is more value based, right? But he has the appetite. So the consumer has changed, the ecosystem has changed, technology has disrupted the entire ecosystem. Like I said, that the rural ecosystems from the PC era to a smartphone era, right? So the PC era just didn't exist there. Similarly, what happened during COVID is what we realized, and our channel didn't shut for a day, and we were working for 14 companies, is that we believe and we living in a myth that the consumer slash distributor slash kirana store owner is not tech savvy, does not want to adopt to technology. But trust me, what COVID taught me and my organization was that if you have value and if you can give them something, they will adopt and they will consume. Not a single day in COVID was then where our operation shut. So what does that showcase? That showcases appetite, that showcases aspiration, that showcases the willingness to consume great quality products, and that also showcases the fundamental of it all, that if your technology, and I believe technology is playing a really, really pivotal role in what's happening today, especially with LMC today, I think you're out there. It is. I think the question should be flipped. I don't think the consumer has dramatically changed. He was already there. I think it's time when companies have that we need to go and check on what they need. Right? We need to change from a market number to the concept of selling. It is not a 70%. Let's not see it from a 70% economy or a $250 billion FMCG market, but see it from a perspective, how can we reach there? So I think the future is bright. It's already there. The consumer is evolved.
Pani, how do you look at the points that he talked about the value? The consumer is looking for value and their willingness to consume. What is your experience in Amul? You are not audible. Yep. Slightly breaking.
Okay, sir.
You can
right?
Yeah. Now it's okay.
Thank you, sir, for nice introduction as well as to be panel, very esteemed members and old friend of mine, Shabbir Haider. And thank you, sir, for calling me. See, sir, I just would like to share few points from Amul side. Amul is the first, largest food brand in India, and it is a popular brand, value for money brand, and it has product range for across the food category, across the consumer segment. So, be it rural, be it urban, it is available. So, I completely agree with Nikhil sir that the consumer is ready that to have the product and it has to be made available. And Amul being the organization believes in the direct distribution of the product, which is basically gives the control with the company so that the product is available at each and every places where we can go. So in this, we have been doing it for quite long, say around 10, 15 years, 20 years, maybe since beginning. But this pandemic has given us a tremendous boost because our approach has been very sincere to the distribution. So this pandemic has given us a boost to go nearer to the market, and because pandemic has given consumer one thing that they should have a packed, safe, affordable, and trustworthy product that they are whatever they are purchasing, that product is safe and they should have it without any fear. So what that product can be other than Amul if it is food, because we have a brand name which is very very popular, and Amul encashed its perception very nicely by being available during the pandemic as well as visible during the pandemic. So it has really catapulted us to a different level, and it ultimately it improved our, strengthened the brand pool. So I
Yes.
believe India is a market of small consumers, small retailers, and small entrepreneurs. So this small segment, which we need to address, it has been addressed through a strategy called triple E: expansion, expansion, and expansion. Expansion at the procurement level, expansion at the infrastructure level, that is the plant, and expansion at the front level, that is the distribution. So by doing it, we have really got a good mileage that 500 crore, our 50% growth, whatever we have grown over last 10 years, 50% of the growth has come from these small markets. Our small market meaning 5,000 to 50,000 population, whatever business they do. And there are many products which have grown in these markets, say 30 to 50% in CAGR. So, and cheese is one example which has gained very good momentum in the rural market. So I agree fully that people are ready to consume, and to this, the reverse migration also helped because the people who were earlier staying in the city area, they had gone back, they were looking for such products which they were consuming in the city. And since we are available in the market, in the small market from 5 to 50K, so the product was there and it has helped us in our business. Another point is the third point is the small pack. That also contributed very well to our business, which is around 40% to the total turnover of the dairy products in the market. Those 10K markets, which was earlier say around 10 crore, it has gone up to 200 crore business. So it is a kind of 20 times more. So overall, if you see because of our strategy of direct distribution being the core and be available in the market, near to the market, has helped us in terms of addressing the consumer current demand of packed, safe, affordable, and trustworthy product, which is on.
Thanks. Thanks. Sabir, your take, please.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes. So to begin with, I would like to thank RMI and Sanjay sir for bringing me to this esteemed panel. Pani sir here used to be my first manager in Amul. Started my career under his guidance, so definitely an honor to be here. About the rural consumer in particular, sir. So I have been very lucky enough to have seen a decade of a shift in how rural consumers have how the perception of rural consumer in different companies that I have worked with has changed. So when I started, I remember rural consumer was seen as somebody who was very aspirational, and the aspiration was to mimic, as Nikhil was saying, to mimic the urban consumer or to move towards globalization. But in the last 5 years, there's also been a very interesting trend. So just as we talk about reverse migration, we can also think of it as a reverse cultural migration, where we have seen that across India, across different states, people are becoming more and more conscious of their own local value systems, local cultures. So they are preferring product or preferring a certain authenticity in the product to be made in India or made in a locality, and something which respects their society more, rather than just taking them towards a westernized or a urbanized setup. So that's a very interesting take, which I think the marketeers also need to be very conscious of, apart from the us, the sales and distribution people. And another point which I think has already been covered, but again I have seen across companies, is this movements toward premiumization has always been there, and in the last 10 years I'll say it has only gone up. So I remember in my first stint in Amul, when I was selling ice creams, I was in an area which was largely rural. So 50% of my contribution used to come from rupees 5 SKU pack, vanilla 5 rupees. And that was also the time when Amul was experimenting with all these premium packs like Sundays and those premium ice creams. And while we went to the markets with these products, we hardly found any resistance. So it took a lot of time for us to convince the channel that the market is ready for premium packs. But as company, I think we are already conscious of this fact, and we see it in our numbers. So for example, in PepsiCo, I saw a movement towards large pack in rural, which was again something which the channel was not very convinced with, but then the consumer trend told us that it's time to move to that way of thinking. So these are the 2 points which I'll add to what the esteemed panelists already shared.
Excellent, excellent. So we will go over to our second and third question together because they are intertwined. The second question was about the rural channel behavior and rural GTM. This cannot be explained without the help of technology. So we'll go right to our third question, and you can answer merging both the questions when you speak. What role I will start this particular question with Pani. Pani, what role has technology played in last 10 years in shaping new ways of working in sales and distribution domain as far as your organization is concerned? And how has the channel behavior changed? What are the new GTMs go to market you are doing? Are you working in the same hub and spoke model that used to be there? If yes, how has technology played a role in the hub and spoke model, or are you looking at direct distribution? Here, another question also rises is that the new fintech systems beyond RTGS and NEFT, things like Bheem and UPI, etc. Do the rural retailers use this? For the sake of the audience at large, I would say that many times we think that rural में ये technology वगैरह का बात करते हैं तो ये शायद थोड़ा ahead of time है. But gentlemen, in urban you have multiple options of getting a product or service, and rural normally the options is one. It's a options choice. For example, if you want in cash in an urban market, you can go to the bank, you can encash a check, you can get it by payment transfer, you can go to an ATM. But rural, there is only one. If there is no bank branches, there is only a white label ATM or a ATM of any organization. If that stops, then the guy doesn't get money. So similarly in technology, while taking the orders, have multiple sources in urban areas. It can be done by a distributor, it can be done by distributor salesman, it can be done by your own salesman, it can be done by a telecall. In rural, normally वो हमारे रमेश भैया आएंगे तो उसको ऑर्डर दे देंगे. The trust and relationship plays a very big role. So when we are talking of role of technology, we also have to be conscious of the fact that rural is extremely passionate about trust and relationship amongst between people. How has that changed? So three parts to the question: how has the role of technology evolved the sales and domain in your area of working? How has the role of the channel and the salesman changed? And what does this trust and physical relationship which used to exist the friendship which used to exist between the retailer and the salesman, or the distributor and the retailer, where has this evolved? Pani, I will take you as the first respondent to
Okay,
this.
sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Uh, I just give little background. Amul works on a 3-4-5 model. That means 3 verticals and 4 distribution highways and 5 distribution formats, which was earlier say one format, then not 15 years back, one format like company, distributed and retailer. So now we have a format of say super distributor, format of say giving to modern trade, e-commerce and our partners. There are 5 formats are available. So here, while going into making the product available, you have a distributor to be selected in all these rural markets. So here earlier we had an experience as well as fun and reputation. We used to see 3 things for a selection of a distributor. But now we have said that let us find out a person who is hungry in terms of earning. So we have a formula called YES formula and added D to it. Yes, D. Young, energetic, and self-motivated. This person, if is interested and with a digitized mindset, then what happens? We immediately get the form that approval is there from our side as per the system, and it is done on a digital way. The form is filled up by the salesperson at the field. In the morning, it comes to us by say afternoon time, and same day the distributor proposal is approved, which used to be earlier taken a long time because of the courier and other things. So digitize had helped in terms of appointing the number of distributors. Because of that, the number of distributor in 5 to 50K has improved by 5 times over the last 10 years. So this has given, therefore, has given a 50% rise in terms of our turnover. And accordingly, if you see, there are the salesmen who are earlier maybe selling to the retailer with a physical distribution with the ready stock in the rural market. Now, because of the digital app is there, that mobile is there, then he is from the local place. He knows the territory well, he knows these people well. So earlier the person who was traveling from 50 or 30 kilometer away, not knowing the market, the rural market well. So now that person is from that place. Once he knows it, that then his association with the retailers is much more, and he gives a better business by visiting physically. So he is having 2 things. One is he is using the digital technology. Second is visiting. Both way, it is giving a mixture of the earlier flavor of earlier working as well as using the technology. And side by side, if you see, we have also helped our salesmen in terms of DTS, direct to salesman payment, which is getting immediately. Whatever incentive we give, it goes to the salesman in the month end, whatever he has earned. Also, the information with respect to the schemes, with respect to the developments of new product, it goes through a SMS or goes to the WhatsApp to the many of the salesmen. So what happens? There is a good communication happening between the company fellow and the distributor salesman, as there is all digitally analysis being done and discussed with the people at the field. Overall, the result becomes very productive for Amul. So that is it. As far as I think, the rural market, the salesman role has been very important, and current he is been tagged to the digital technology with the use of app with the mobile.
Okay. So any inputs as regard to which other areas are you using technology in terms of? I am merging the second and third question. Technology in the area of sales and distribution, like you have given visi-coolers in the for ice cream sales, etc. Do you track where the visi-coolers are physically, or salesman's attendance system, or what are the other areas where you have involved technology in here?
Sir, I would say the most important part of the distribution, which is the essence of distribution, which you have taught us in our, this Amul as well as in IRMA, is to make the product available. So if you make the product available, the other things would come after that. So this making the product available, we have a salesman role, which is AVF, availability, make the product available, make the product visible with a shelf life. Because we are food product, it has to be right time. In order to make the product available, you have to fill the gaps from whatever market he is visiting. So I would request Nikhil to show after some time. Say we have a rule called 57 or 68 rule. This is a salesman rule that we have product called milk. That is a fresh product, milk. So we tell to the salesman, depending on the market, you go to the market from morning 5 to 7 a.m. or 6 to 8 a.m. depending on the time zone. So eastern area 5 to 7 is quite okay, and say northern part or western part it is 6 to 8. So during that period it is the early morning. Milk is a morning product. It has to be available in the morning. So we have certain outlets which are open but not selling milk. So when they are not selling milk, it means that is the opportunity for us. So the outlets which are open, say maybe a flower shop, maybe a shop which is selling puja items, maybe a shop selling bread and other things, but they are not selling. So once he is open, that means he is for the business. Once he is in the business, we are asking the person that you add milk and increase your business. So for that, the person is, our salesperson is asked to visit during this period to enroll such outlets. So there is technology used by us. The technology, there are 5 apps we have. Now Nikhil, Aadhar, can you just show the first slide? This is a slide called Locate Amul. Locate Amul is that where you see, you use the app, and if you see on the right corner, there is a 5-kilometer radius. How many outlets of Amul are there? And if you see on the right side of the frame, there's a 44 is written in a small letter. That means 44 products are outlet in that. 44 products are available in that outlet. So meaning that there are outlets available, but there are still gaps are there, which have been marked in the blue lines. So the person has to move in the morning or during the daytime, depending on the product group, and find out which are those outlets not selling our products. Then next slide. Then he goes and use the Amul track. Amul track meaning he will go to these markets and take a photo of that shop, and that shop photo is with the lat long is registered in the Amul track. Then it goes to the third app, that is our DMS, and that those outlets which are interested to purchase milk or dairy products, they are registered in the DMS, and the business transaction starts. After this, you can close this now the slides. After this, once the business is continuous, that time we say that please do the Amul cart. Cart meaning the retailer is given the app, he can directly place order to the distributor, and the distributor can supply the goods to the retailer. And subsequently, we have also a futuristic app which has just started, is the consumer channel. The consumer channel is, we are trying to protect our distributor from the e-commerce people and giving them something that they can also directly sell to the consumer in the territory where he is operating by geotagging the area. So this also is starting. So overall, if you see the 5 things, it is filling up the gap, and that gap once filled, product is available, and product is available meaning you have a business to rise and the opportunity to encash.
Okay. Okay, so we come to Nikhil. Nikhil, you lead a company which distinguishes itself by use of technology. So, what Pani said, in addition to this, or what are some of the unique things that you are doing using technology, which possibly wouldn't have been done as effectively in the rural areas if technology was not there? Normally, I find there are four areas which companies use technology for. One is creating reach, which Pani said in terms of identifying the gaps, etc., creating reach. Second thing is that monitoring of your channel and sales force, which is basically the governance. And the third part is your increasing the productivity or the efficiency, right? These are the three parts. Normally, largely the people use this. So, can we know from you, Nikhil, what are the unique things that you have been doing?
Sure, sure. So this is something that is my bread and butter, and this is what differentiates us with a traditional distribution model. Before I dwell into what is it, what is what, and how we do it, I think it's very important to understand that there are two parts to it. One, there are categories, then there are companies. Right now, I've been fortunate enough for last 10 years to work across categories. So, agreed, FMCG is a low-hanging fruit. Agreed that it's the biggest market, it's the biggest bull out there, right? But we've been fortunate to work in lighting. We've been fortunate to work with lubes. We've been fortunate to work with tires. We've been fortunate to work with beauty products, right, across categories. And it'll be a cardinal sin if I classify a rural only with FMCG, right? Now, I think the first thing that there's a joke I used to crack usually in my company. I used to say, in the age and era when the urban startups are fighting to deliver goods in 10 minutes, I am fighting to put products in markets where probably companies would take 10 years to reach. You know?
Very
So,
nicely said.
so firstly, fundamentally, there is a difference, right? You need to know where you're going. I think one error that has happened over a period of last decade is in this of going to rural, and every member in the panel here is more knowledgeable about rural than me, but then fundamental always has been 70% of the population lives here, 50% of the GDP is driven by here, 1 million kirana stores. But where do you go? Is the entire country, is the entire rural commercially viable for you to go? Is every pocket something which will give you a viability to go? The dream would be to go direct everywhere in the country, but is that a dream that you should live? I think that's the first question technology should answer for you, and that's where we started. I think we've been fortunate to work over a period of last 7 years, like I said, across categories. Right. The first question technology answers for you is, where do you go? Do you go to 5 lakh, 6 lakh villages? Does that make sense? Do you go to the all 15 lakh kirana stores? Does that make sense? So a lot of technology was used, integrated. There were modules that were created 7 years back. Test mapping which picked up kacha roads, pakka roads, kache chat, pakke chat. We have historical data of 7 years of each village across where I can tell you how much soap was used and how much tires used, because we've been lucky to work across categories. I think that's where the starting point of technology was, prioritizing the right markets. Don't burn money because you want to go rural, right? So I think that's one, that use tech as a platform which enables. A second thing which I think, Mr. Panigrahi, which is very critical and from an outsider's view, I think one thing which has changed is, uh, and which should change is, technology has been a part of rural over decades, but technology has always been an enabler. It has never been the driver, right? It is time that technology becomes the driver. It cannot only remain the enabler. Technology is the shortcut for you to reduce your cost to serve. It is the only enabler which can tell you how to optimize costs and make rural a profitable venture. Right? The biggest reason for people not going to rural was what? It was cost to serve, low volumes. Yeah, I mean, and serving became a pain. I think that's where technology needs to come in. So what are we doing? I'll give you a few examples. I would have loved to showcase a few examples to you, but unfortunately, because we have a restriction in technology here, first and the most important thing right now, according to me, is when I start prioritizing, now you know where you have to go. We work on a fundamental call as value to village. What is the value to a village which can be extracted and which value to a company? But second important thing, and where I think most of these, and I'm sorry to say this, have gone wrong, is that is there strong adherence and governance to where your stock is going? I have worked with companies where on the name of rural, sales is actually not happening in rural. I met I'll narrate a very small little story. I met someone very senior in a hair oil yesterday. Nikhil is a veteran of 40 years in the industry. He said, my problem is that the country's modern trade is run by people who have been in general trade for the last 30 years. Yeah. And what has that resulted in is that the stock which should be going to modern trade is actually going to general trade, right? So are we genuinely getting incremental business? And that's what LMC stands for. We're not here to drive business. We're here to drive incremental business. And the first stepping stone for that is look at real rural. Look at where your guy is actually selling. Is he selling where he sell? There was a question, Mr. Panigrahi, you asked before we started, saying that what is rural? I believe even the evaluation of rural needs to change. Rural for every company is different. For lighting, it is 1 lakh below. For FMCG, it's 25,000 below. For HUL, it probably will be 15,000 below, right? So we work on a fundamental which is technology driven, which says, forget for a moment, we're going to take you beyond where your current direct coverage is. And because it is not fruitful for you, it is not making economic sense for you, so we aggregate. Now, what is the first thing we drive? The first rule of business is drive incremental business. You do not want to do business in the same way you're doing it. Hence, governance becomes a very important, right? Tracking. Now, what we do is we have interesting technology in play where the first stepping stone is any company, I've been speaking to Shabbir for long now on this, any company has the right to choose where does it want to go and make it available at the places where you're not there. Do not cannibalize your market. There are a lot of people in the market who are doing rural sales, but fundamental problem difference between us and them is I would, you need to have access to know where your sales are happening. And it should happen only in the areas where you are present. Right, so governance for one, lat-long locking, retailer mapping, ensuring, as an example, if tomorrow, let's suppose Shabbir tells me, Nikhil, I want to work with you, but I don't want to work below 25,000 pops. I want to work in specific villages, right? Now, in my app, the product will be only visible in the villages where you want to go. And what does that mean? That if a sales guy goes to Mukhed in Maharashtra and you want to sell there, it will be visible. But if you go to another village where you don't want it to sell, it will not be visible. So access control on market to a company. Hence the driver, not a facilitator. It is not an app which we should go beyond the time. App is only about taking order. It's about ensuring the order is taken at the right place. I'll quickly show you something very interesting if you guys allow me. Adhar, could you play a video? I wanted to showcase this live to you guys, but yeah. See, this is something called as a tracker app. All right. Now, bad resolution, unfortunately. But all the selling on the ground, I have a real access which I provide to all the companies who work with me about is this guy exactly which retailer, and this is real time, this is live with the photographs. Where exactly is he selling? How much is he selling? So, for example, if you see this guy, he's in this certain village and he sold this amount of stock. And there is no way that he can get out of it. Now you dive into state, you dive into district, you deep dive into VLE. It's a real-time monitoring mechanism. Now what this ensures for you, first is governance, and second is ensuring that the stock is going into the right space. It's not going into the wrong space. While at one end of the technology, we've enabled it to be only shown in the, but we've also ensured that the VLE perception that go to another place and event. Right. So like, for example, like I said, tracking, governance, technology facilitates it. There needs to be absolute clarity about where product is going. So that's one part of that example that we take a pride in. But I'm sorry I'm taking time, but this is a little too passionate for me. Adar, we can close the video. When I say that from an enabler to a driver, when I say that's where the technology should be moving, what I mean by is, I think gone are the days when technology initially was what? It was a substitute for a daily field sales report, right? Instead of punching it in a computer, people will put it in an app. At that time, as an example, what is the fundamental that LMC? I will talk about LMC works on. We work on a front which says the idea should not be about selling more. The idea should be about enabling someone to sell more, enabling the doctor to, enabling the don't stock in, right? So, for example, we are using technology which is machine learning AI based, right? My AI machine engine learns, and then starts recommending. Basis what? Basis what is the neighborhood store buying? Basis what is the weather? Basis not deciding sitting in a boardroom that in October, November, December, the mosquito repellent sale will go up, yeah, or the shampoo sale will go down. But the machine is learning it and is facilitating the salesman and the kirana owner to buy right and sell right. Hence, less dead stock. Hence, less returns of stock. Hence, higher value per retailer, right? That's what we call smart tech. That's what we say, a technology which is driving the force, not enabling the force. And what does this all result in? I can go on and on about this, about how technology, we did, I'll give a small little example to everyone here. When we started 7 months back, our operation, Mr. Panigrahi, I think I was also in touch with Shabbir that time. The first 3 companies that I started with, one of them was a company which had a product called as Malkist. I don't know if you're aware of it. Malkist is a 6 rupees, 1 biscuit, cheese with a sugar sprinkle on top. That 1 biscuit costs the retailer, the consumer, 6 rupees. And when we started this entire story, I was not very confident. I said 6 rupees, 1 biscuit, and compare it to the giants who sell 10 biscuits for 5 rupees, right? So the normal perception that everyone thought that 6 rupees ka ek wo bhi cheese wala, compared to a milk biscuit which gets 10 in 6 rupees. But see what data did for us. We seeded it in and we put it in the market. And our technology has a feature by which it says, okay, you do not have a stock, go to a retailer, sell it and notify that I need this stock. 1 month, we sold 20 pieces of cheese biscuits in one state. 7 months down the line, this cheese biscuit of 6 rupees is the second highest selling brand for me. And that's not because the salesman sold it, that's because the technology learning and the technology kept pushing. And the technology understood that where is the shop, which is the area where this recommendation should be put up. Right? Don't waste your energies where it cannot be sold, but don't undersell it. So to come to the point, I'll take it to the point what you asked, Mr. Panigrahi. So what has changed in the salesman life? And I think I have a very different opinion about it. I think it's time then we move from a street smart man to a tech smart salesman. I don't think street smartness is something which is lacking. I think what is lacking is all the decisions that are taken in the boardrooms are not bucketed down to the salesman in the real essence, right? The value gets lost till the time it reaches the salesman, right? October, November, December में आप mosquito repellent बेचो. अब जब तक वो मैसेज सेल्समैन के पास पहुंचती है तब तक सीजन खत्म हो गया होता है, right? Now look at the beauty of technology. It's learning. And you don't need anyone telling anyone what needs to be sold. The salesman automatically on his gets the notification that this is what you should sell because this retailer's inventory was this. And trust me, when you start talking about तुम्हारे आसपास की 20 दुकानों में ये बिका है और डिस्ट्रिक्ट में ये इतना बिक रहा है, then the kirana store will buy, right? Was the salesman ever so smart? He will never be till the machine does not start giving the smart recommendation. Hence, Salesman needs to be smart, not street smart. That's our understanding. My biggest success has come from freshers, have been 6 months in the market, but love tech. And tech tells them what to sell. And I'll bring to the last point of it, Mr. Panigrahi, which is very, very important, is trust, which you're absolutely right about. But let me take you 15 years back, 20 years back. Urban में भी sir GT था ना, and GT used to function on trust, right? And we transited and transferred that journey. And today in my house, everything is ordered online because there's value. But rural functions on, I don't think functions on trust, it works on relationships, right? I don't think a good salesman who is someone who sells. A good salesman is someone who knows, is the daughter in 12th or is the son getting married, that kind of stuff. So I believe the future is in assisted. Current ecosystem is about assisted e-commerce, where you build that value system for that to self-order, right? The retailer has order. The villages did not shut in COVID. The orders were still coming in, right? I still order of Apollo tires for good 3 months and we broke records. And it all happened on WhatsApp. Right? Because there was a relation, yes, but because the retailer saw value. जो कहीं नहीं मिल रहा वो यहाँ मिल रहा है. So what is the value now a retailer will seek? Enable him to sell more. But do not make a technology which is replicating, mimicking, or copying the urban technology. So I'll give a small example and then I'll close on that. Everyone I'm sure here is very knowledgeable and would know that 7% of the Google search in rural comes from voice search. They do not type in a product and search, right? Now think about Amazon being taken to rural, and Amazon, you ask a Kirana store owner to type. Not going to work. It's not going to work. So what is the alternative? That's what I mean by rural tech. That's what I mean by smart rural tech. What's work is creating a natural languaging processing center where he presses the mic and says Dettol. Now understand there's accent variance. Someone in UP is going to say Dettol and someone in Tamil Nadu is going to say Dettol. Is your system going to recognize this? So we are building that technology. And typically, all of you can check on a Flipkart or an Amazon, it takes 4 minutes, 20 seconds to order. We want to force, how do we do it? We in visual search, anytime a retailer clicks, he doesn't even say it now because, comfort of saying. So he picks up the phone, he takes on any product on his retail, right? He clicks a picture. Let's suppose he clicks a picture of Cadbury's chocolate, right? For the benefit of everyone. Now that's when the order automates, right? Now this is what tech needs, and this is what we are building. We're building smart, intelligent technology, where currently it is assisted e-commerce, but eventually we need to enable the retailer to buy and sell smartly. Don't stock him up. And how do you do it? Do it by learning what he buys and the consumer is buying. Do it by assisting him, enabling him to do more right easily. Don't copy the app from Delhi. Enable, understand what is his behavior. Third is go to the right areas, but trust me, all of this will fail till the time you don't drive governance. Sell in the right areas. I know a lot of our startups in the same ecosystem who are doing fantastically well, but the stock is going to wholesale. So I believe companies have the right and the authority to ask for retailer level data. The moment you see it, only when you should believe it. And if you're going to the retailer in the Kirana store, trust me, the incremental business that you are for is not coming. Right? So incremental business, move from a street smart guy to a tech smart guy and enable the channel to sell more. Don't sell more to the channel. That's what tech will change.
Right. Great, Nikhil. I think you talk some good points from a street smart salesman to a tech smart salesman. That's what I will remember. But the question also remains that will the companies willing to pay for the tech smart salesman, or they will say tech is doing everything, tumko itna paisa kyun dega?
Not at all, sir. That's where LMC companies like LMC come in, who say don't pay a price, pay
Yeah,
for
so
performance, pay for what we sell.
performance, right. Yeah. So Shabbir, will come to you. We'll come to you with your very considered thoughts. Now you have heard two of our esteemed speakers. What is your thoughts about the role of technology? And gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, anyone asks you questions to any of the panelists, please type it out in the chat box. We will try to answer it at the end of the after Shabbir finishes his talk. Yes, Shabbir. You are not audible, Shabbir.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Am I audible now?
Yeah. You
Yeah.
are audible now. Yeah.
So I will briefly talk about two things, and this is basis my uh, understanding of the rural market in the last 1 decade. So one thing which has not changed is that rural market, the retailer and the distributor still values relationships and trust lot more over anything else. So for me, the whenever I have handled the role of rural planning, whether in the ground or in the boardroom, the idea has always been how to use technology to create enough material for my task force to go and give that respect to the channel member, have that simplicity of thought, clarity of communication in the rural belts. So if you have, let's say if you're building an app, how can you use this app to have healthy conversation with the distributor? Can you provide a complete summary of the business in a very simplified format? When you are going to look for a new distributor, can you provide the right sort of information through which a potential party can understand what is the kind of business potential they will get if they become onboarded to your company, what kind of profit will they make, and absolute transparency. So I think technology has made this task easier, and this is something that we should further promote, because this and you also have to align. So you know that at least most of the companies in FMCG, there has been more than 5 decades of wisdom built into the data of these companies, Amul or Pepsi, Cadbury. We all carry this vintage data. How can we make use of that data? So in my experience, without getting into specific details, I have worked on use that in old data to create a map of many Indias. So, for example, Bengal and Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu are just completely different entities altogether. Using cutting and slicing the data, how can you figure out the per capita consumption or the business trend that you have in those areas, that population? Basis that overlaying technology, how can you have a pointed and more focused expansion drive, which what Nikhil also mentioned, keeping in mind the cost to serve. How can you also use technology to help save some cost and not blindly think about going everywhere in rural? So in fact, interesting point comes about this, all these emerging players who are coming, one of them being LMCE, then there are other players in the market. uh, a very interesting data point is that if you look at the diversity of Indian rural markets, uh, if you look at villages which have less than 1,000 population, 15 crore of the population lives in those villages. That's 16% of the total rural population. Even if you could tap that market, which a normal traditional FMCG company will not, because it's too costly for them, even you can just go and say that that is the value that you are providing, that itself could be a good selling story. But for, let's say, an FMCG company, if I'm part of the other side of the board, like I'm the client, for me, then the question becomes, through the usage of technology, like for example, what Nikhil you are saying, what is the incremental value which I can get in my business? So I would not want to work with a data company. I would want to work with a company who understands distribution very well, who can take care of the distribution on those incremental outlets, and who can give me that confidence that that the way that I take care of my own distributor, you will be able to take care of that geography. So that is only possible if you have customized regional knowledge of each of these geographies in India, and this applies both for the client and also for the emerging partners which are upcoming. So that's largely 2 points which I had in mind when it comes to the role of technology.
Excellent. Yeah, I think very well said. I think the rural systems, if you look at about 6 or 7 streams it works on, the technology most companies have done. One, they have done in terms of the attendance systems of their salespeople, that they take it
Yeah, yeah.
completely digitally. Second thing is the ordering system, the how the ordering takes place. Some most companies have today an app where the retailer can put his own order, but the adoption is ranging between 2% to 10% depending on categories. Then the
True.
payment
Yeah.
system, whether the retailers are paying to the distributor is paying to the EA in the click of a button. Then there are
Hmm.
visibility system and merchandising. I know of a company which used to, ask the retailer to click a photograph of the visibility that he has done and send it to a WhatsApp number, where the image recognition software used to select which is the first, second, and third prize winners, and they used to conduct it
Correct.
every day. So that was the kind of
Yeah.
excitement the retailer has. कि भाई photo भेजने से prize मिलता है, you know
Hmm.
and the claim is a major irritant for the retailers. How the claims are being managed using the technology. And last but not the least is the loyalty management. Many companies like the paint companies, the tire companies, etc., FMCGs do not do the loyalty management that much. But these are some of the streams where I have seen great deal of work taking place, and mostly it is rural. बिकॉज अर्बन एरिया में वो तो वैसे भी होता था, और आप चेक करने के लिए ये आपको कुछ ज़्यादा तकलीफ नहीं होती थी। बट आप 40 दुकान कवर करना चाहते हैं तो आपको रिटेल में 10 गांव जाना पड़ेगा, जबकि आपको अर्बन में एक स्ट्रीट में आपको 40 दुकान मिल जाती है। The cost
Yeah.
to serve that way becomes higher. So the more the technology helps us to take decisions sitting on our table, and we only move when we are able to do a incremental sale. हम जब हमको incremental sale मिलते हैं, your efforts are going towards incremental sale, then I think the companies will benefit. There is a question for you, uh, Nikhil, is from Navneet Singh from Procter and Gamble. He says that nice to hear the optimization of technology. Can you please let me know how increase the demand of a well-distributed product? Any one or two examples you want to give us? A product which is
How to
very well distributed. He asks, can you please let me know how to increase the demand of a well distributed product? जो product पहले से ही अच्छे distribution है, उसका incremental sale आप कैसे लाएंगे? That is the question he is
two
asking.
things. Fabulous. I think because he's from PNG, he has all the right to ask the right question. But if you ask me, see, I think one part of the answer Shabbir just gave. 50 crore population below 1,000, right? I mean, one is go deeper, right? I personally believe there is no, I mean, not taking that claim, but you would not have you would not have been to all commercially viable. So expand. I think what Mr. Pani also said, expand, 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 right? So that's one. Have you covered the entire ecosystem? Second thing which we have learned over the period of last 7 to 8 months is what is the cycle, one, of order taking. Typically, with please correct me if anyone if you think I'm wrong, is that when any salesman goes to deep rural, right, he ends up going to, so these are going to be the bigger 2 or 3 shops in that village who will be supplying, because the smaller stock order he will not take. So I think one is that how do we ensure that there is optimum coverage within a village and expansion of coverage. Second is, can technology help drive the consumer awareness from a kirana store? So that's a technology that we are already in play. So one is that you're already a great product. So let me give an example to Ramneet here, that we work with a Sarang company, which is a challenger brand in the market. And the way we went to the market with them to drive competition against PNG was that we didn't end at the retailer. We started going to the consumer through tech, right? So there are multiple ways of doing it. The retailer has his own phone, he has his own contacts. Can we utilize them and percolate down to the consumer? But in terms of broadly, if you ask me, when there is a very well laid out company who has already had a very well laid out product, there is still a scope. I'll give a small little example here. Reckitt Benckiser, when we started 7 years back, Mr. Panigrahi, was, I mean, think about Dettol, used to sell like crazy, right? Think about Mortein, used to sell like crazy. But when we started wheat, which is a hair removal cream in rural, was not even contributing to 0.006% of the rural contribution in Reckitt's portfolio. The general perception was wheat to bikega nahi, right? Dettol bik raha hai, Mortein bik raha hai. But in the entire portfolio, in 6 years, wheat became the third largest contributing brand in the rural sales for Reckitt. Why did that happen is because, and I'm again sorry to state this, but the mindset needs to change from driving availability to do sales. Availability is दुकान पे गए कौन सा माल है किसी तरीके से माल रख दो. Driving sales is where you are actually going and ensuring that the product is placed and is sold. So how did you do it? Because you pestered the retailer. You kept on telling him, wheat, bikega, bikega. You knew that in January, February, March, the marriage season is coming. It's the right time to put the product there. From a 0.06% contribution to being the third biggest rural contributor turnover, wheat within 4 years. And that was when technology was not in play. So for a company like P&G, which has an HUL, which has really deep penetration in rural, I think it will be more beneficial to look at portfolio expansion and going more deeper.
Okay. Shabbir,
I'll give an example here if that's okay. We started working with 2 companies who are in the hair care segment. Right, Chief? One of them, I wouldn't name both of them because of whatever reasons. One of them is the epitome of creating the rural market by doing a 1 rupee sachet or 50 paisa sachet. The other end of the spectrum is one of the most established MNCs in hair care segment. The hair care segment, which is an MNC, is doing far better than the company which had actually established the rural segment. Why does that happen is because even for this hair care segment, there were only 2 brands that were doing very good in rural. But from last 3 months, we have actually contributed to 120% growth by expanding the portfolio. So give an example to you, their hair care segment was more, the rural was contributing more from the hair color segment. And the thought was conditioners will not sell. Yeah, but taking what Shabbir just, when you educated the retailer and the distributor on the benefits of margin, on the acceptance from customer, on the acceptance from the ecosystem, is when it suddenly took off. But think about this hair care company not trying to get into rural because, well, boss, the hair color is selling huge. Why do I even care? Portfolio expansion and the confidence in the rural consumer should be there. I think there's possibility of doubling business for any company. And one last thing, and I'm sorry for eating up time, do not think rural only as a market for established companies, right? Think about the new age, new India brands and challenger brands who would have dreamt of going into rural 20 years down the line because they're still establishing in urban. I work with 7 companies who are new age companies who are doing fantastic.
They can't afford to not go. They can no longer afford not to be in rural.
Absolutely. So it's stiff competition out there.
So Shabbir, one last question I wanted to ask you specifically because you have worked with different companies and sometime also you are doing work on G2M. So I want to know, has the role of technology played in any role in evolving new go-to-market strategy of rural?
Yes, absolutely, it has. So you would find that a number of some of the major FMCG companies now we all have different. So we started with hub and spoke model or super and sub model, but you will find that today you would have 50% business coming from one stream, then you have let's say 30-40% business coming from a direct model, then you have some percentage of rural business coming from, let's say, emerging player. So multiple channels have opened up in rural, which I mean was unconceivable before. And most of the companies that I know of have specific strategies for different population strata. That till this we'll go direct, till this we'll use hub and spoke model. This and here then we will use emerging channels. So that is becoming a norm now, and largely because of technology. Because before that we didn't have the visibility. Now, in fact, we also set a benchmark that if the business goes from this to this, then we'll go direct. If business grows from this to this, then we'll rather use a third party rather than go on our own, because it's just cost wise is not justifiable. We look at the C2S, and this was just not possible before technology. But and in technology, I think one more thing perhaps which RMI could advocate with the government of India is, so there's an India stack which has been set up by the government of India, where all the technological information, everything is available there. I think all of us, and I absolutely believe in creating in-house technology apart from using third party players. We need accurate geocode of villages. We need boundary data of villages. Even today it's not accurate. Even the Google data is very in 60-70% accuracy, but we need data sets which could be so much more accurate. So today government of India provides us the census data, and that is the hallmark. I wish government could also provide us the village boundaries and the more accurate geocode, so that we could do more scientific work in rural areas.
Very good. Excellent. I know of a company which had it in an attendance system. They had this, that if a particular salesman was absent on a particular day, it was very difficult to send a salesman to that village again, because the distances being what it is, that village used to remain, uncovered that particular day. So some companies then transfer this to a call center. Automatically, if you don't
Yes.
log in at 10 o'clock, the salesman does not log in at 10 o'clock, then the system recognizes that the salesman is absent. He might be late, he might be absent, but he transfers to a call center, and the call center person, executive, starts calling up all the shops on the beat and asks that our salesman is not coming today, do you have any order to give? At least 70 to 80% of the demand of the existing products they used to get by that. So there are many new ways which is happening. Yeah.
Interestingly, to add to what you're saying, which is actually by the end of the month, it's almost 20 to 30% of order loss because of attendance, and that's a best case scenario. That you 80% attendance is, and because typically in FMCG there's a bi-monthly visit cycle, so you ideally miss on a big thing. And what you said, it's called, we call it internally as an omni-channel sales support, right? And which is the beauty we saw when we implemented the omni-channel, just for the benefit of everyone, when we implemented the omni-channel tech support system in our technology, which would mean that if by 10 o'clock no one checks in, and SO automatically, the sales officer, who's the in the hierarchical system above the VSR, automatically gets a notification saying this is the route you should be doing today because your VSR is not there. And then even if the SO has multiple routes, then the data gets populated to our call center, who picks up the order. Initially, doing it over the phone was difficult, but now it's happened. But just to add value, what you said is the business grew by around 18%, right? Just by adding this one bit of tech interpretation here, which was creating an automated omni-channel sales support system where you don't lose on business, which actually was really big business loss. And especially in confectionery, where it's biscuits and chips and Shabbir, you can validate that.
Yeah.
The order cycle is anyways once a week because he consumes it.
Yeah.
Oh, if he doesn't go once in 15 days, तो बिल्कुल ही order loss हो जाता है. So tech playing an integral role in driving omni-channel sales, absolutely in agreement.
Yeah. So thank you very much. So it was wonderful listening to all of you. I think Pani, milk has a 99% penetration, as people know. But so your efforts are gigantic. It's in a different plane altogether, because there are hardly any village products. And in that process also, I recently went to Srinagar, and in one of the small villages of 2,000 population, I found your distributor selling Masti Dahi, and in packed Masti Dahi from his van. So congratulations to you for having established a very good system of distribution in the country, which has led to your such gigantic turnover of 61,000 crores. Best wishes. Shabbir, your example of retailer and distributor value system, in spite of the technology which you are trying, is perhaps little ahead of time. If I say, most people today discount it. Distributor is a much maligned name in the industry.
Yeah.
The distributor क्या है, हम लोग सब कर लेंगे, लेकिन बाद में घूम फिर के वहीं आ जाते हैं डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर के पास में, बिकॉज इंडिया की साइज एंड शेप जो है उसके अंदर में खुद डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन करना एंड द डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर्स वे द कॉस्ट टू सर्व आप देखेंगे तो डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर कई हद तक कम कॉस्ट में वो करके दे सकते हैं. अभी आपको 1 लेवल डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर रखना चाहते हैं, 2 लेवल रखना चाहते हैं, नहीं रखना चाहते हैं, वो कंपनी टू कंपनी है. बट आई थिंक कंपनीज आर ऑन लर्निंग curve when about at least FMCG 80 almost 89% of the sales comes from the general trade through the distributors.
Yeah.
Balance comes from the modern trade as well as your e-commerce. So Nikhil, your point on prioritization and incremental sales was worth noting. And yes, the companies are well disturbed if the agencies that they appoint, if the sales does not take place in the intended rural areas and the stocks are offloaded in the wholesale market, that's a concern to many of the companies, and we saw the newspaper reports coming on this also. So when you give the visibility to the company saying that कि मैंने कल ये माल बेचा, इतना SKU बेचा, इस दुकान पे बेचा है, if that is available live to the company sales personnel, that gives a lot of confidence and also helps tremendously in what you say, buy right and sell right philosophy. So gentlemen, thank you very much for an exciting webinar. I think I learned quite a bit, and Pani, Shabbir and Nikhil, grateful to you, and Adhar, grateful to you for having organized at the back end of all the technical help and support. Thank you so much, and we hope we meet soon.
Thank you very
again.
much,
Thank you.